Got a Daggerr knife. Yep. I think Resident Discover. Black handle, black stonewash blade. And then it's got a bunch of knives. I think it's called the Resident. Yeah, Resident. So these Daggerr knives, I mean, they've caught my eye, like maybe a bunch of y'all, for quite some time. Because they have kind of a unique feature to them. And we'll get to it. Definitely a budget piece. I think they have some higher end options now. I don't know for sure. But I decided to get one. You know, sometimes, I don't know, when you do what we do, sometimes you just go, I'm going to get one. So their unique feature is their skull pocket clip. Yeah, how cool is that? It's got a skull breaker, and then it kind of carries the skull theme into the scale, and it also carries it into the thumb hole. It's kind of the skull theme. I see a black stonewashed HCR 14 MOV steel blade, and I'm going to say it's on washers. Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, let's get rid of the distractions, and we'll just break this thing down. I'm pretty positive it's a budget piece. I mean, it runs like the wind. Feels a little loose, kind of janky. A little janky. Feels a little gas station-ish. I mean, it got the wiggle out of it, but I can feel the bearings running, and it just feels loose. But there's no play there. And it's a guillotine, centered blade. Interesting. It's got the little skull carry over onto the pivot pin as well. But yeah, that unique pocket clip, right? I mean, I've seen these knives forever, and I've always kind of thought, man, especially if it was a really solid knife. There's the Daggerr logo, and then the steel, black stonewashed. Looks like black stonewashed liners as well. Hey, you know what? There's no reason to guess about all that. Let's just get in it. The pivot is captured. And I say that because of the effort that it took to get that loose. And it's got to be covered in Loctite. Well, it's not covered in Loctite, but it had a little bit on it. Interesting. Looks like T6s the rest of the way. Long screws. Maybe this top one. I think we should come apart. Let's see. Well, something's holding on, so I'm gonna pull that other pocket clip screw. There must be a screw under the scale. Well, actually, that's the only screw holding the pocket clip down. Um, so that may be involved. That little skull cracker thing, whatever that is. Little glass breaker, skull cracker. It definitely was holding everything down. Yep, there was the tension there was holding all this in. Pretty sure those are steel bearings. And upon further review, you have to have the little glass breaker, skull cracker, whatever. I'm going to try to put a little tension on this clip while I got it off. There we go. Yeah, I'm pretty sure steel on the bearings. Yeah. Steel cage bearings. Yeah, let's wipe it all down. So I'm feeling lots of skeletonizing here in these steel liners, a bunch. And so I'm feeling the bearings rolling on the steel. So I think it's reasonable to assume that that'll get better. The more the knife is functioned, those bearings will cut in. It had a nice detent. I mean, there wasn't any reason for me to think that I needed to change the detent on this knife, that's for sure. That action, I mean, it was a guillotine. All right. Well, blade. Yeah, I got the blade. I'm double dipping. All right, let's put it back together. Yeah, that pivot's captured for sure. Stop pin is kind of tiny. It's definitely not overbuilt by any stretch of the imagination. Pardon me. Somebody mentioned the dude the other day and got me craving White Russians, man. Outlaw milkshake. Yeah, buddy. I mean, maybe that's going to be better. We'll see. It felt good there. I think I want to put some on that, where that ball runs. Yep. Help that ball out a little bit, that detent ball. All right. I put a little extra oomph on that screw this time. Maybe it'll help that action. We'll see. I've got a balance there. Let's try this action now. We are locked up super tight, and I'm too tight on the pivot. Won't allow that action to run. Yeah. I think I'm going to leave it because of how tight I have it. I think it's forcing it to really run on that steel now, which I think in the long run will help this knife. So I'm going to leave that be. For now, anyways. Well, and when I decided to get one of these, there were several models. And so I thought, well, I'm going to get one and see what I think about it. And then I can always get another. So this is kind of the one to see if I'll try another one. I'm pretty sure that was too tight. I mean, well, let's talk about the action. So the action is really good. I mean, super free. This thing just flies like the wind, man. Super snappy coming out, closing, back flipper, thumb flick, spidey flick, access to the lock bar. It's got some really nice aggressive jimping on a scallop on the liner lock. This is lowered, so it's really easy to get in there, disengage that. The blade basically drops shut. The back flipper works wonderfully. Nice little round. It's got jimping all the way up and over it. So very positive lock up there. I mean, I'm going to say it's I'd say it's an A all day long. It's just the knife feels kind of janky. And will that improve through time with use? I think so, because I think the reason it feels the way it does is because those steel bearings are having to cut their way into the liners and the steel. I mean, we're solid. I can feel it. But it doesn't take much to get it to run out there. You can see it. I mean, it's going on its own with just the slightest little flick out there. Yeah. I mean, it's an A to an A minus. Let's talk about ergonomics. So, I mean, it feels really good in hand. The contours of the knife, the way that they've chopped this up and contoured it, you know, I mean, it's it's so. I mean, this is how it goes sometimes. Like the overall feel of the knife to me is kind of janky, but the action's pretty solid. And now I have to tell you, ergonomically, I mean, yeah, I could use the P word. That's how good this is in hand right here. This platform for the thumb, kind of spyderco-ish, man. Get that thumb tucked up in there. I mean, not so confident, confident, very confident. Yeah, this thing, man, I am so locked in here. I can feel the pocket clip in a few spots, but it's not hot enough to make me let go of the knife. I mean, but I definitely am aware that I'm holding on here. Um, Reverse grip, yeah, unfortunately we're stuck with this glass breaker here, so I'm going to say no just because you're intuitively going to get that thumb here and you can't do it because that thing's a needle. Now, could I blunt that up a little bit? I could, but out of the box, no. Um, this grip is more doable, I think, without capping it. Like I can go here and that feels really good. Um, the thing that I struggle with is the overall feel of the knife feels like a gas station knife. It just does. It feels cheap. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, the action is legit. The ergonomics are legit. Can even kind of choke up here a little bit. It's got a needle of a tip. Let's check the pocket clip. Get my head off of it for a second here. I mean, I really want to like the knife. It just feels cheap. Now, maybe you got to kind of put it in context for what they're asking for this knife. Maybe that'll play in, but yeah, so on the thick stuff, we're kind of hanging up on the top of the skull, but what a cool pocket clip, huh? Very cool. And of course, all the mouth and the eyes all lend to grab onto that and get it out of there. The standard jean size material, this thing runs wonderful all day long. You can hear a click coming out of there. My spot in the back pocket. Yeah, come on, man. That's legit. Yeah, I dig it. Let's check that HCR. Well, let's check it for safety first. Let's not bypass that. See if I can make blade contact. I cannot through the back, and the tip is well recessed. So the clip is good and solid. The tip's good, and I can handle this knife any way I want without catching the sharp parts. The lock is secure. It's locked up good. What do we got for lockup? I mean, it's maybe 30%. but it's working really well. Let's check the let's check that HCR. Big, tall, flat ground blade. I mean, I'm feeling some bumps there, so let's hit it. Let's give it the magic strop. We want to stay high, especially with that stonewash, that black stonewash. This thing will ghost up quick if I get up onto that blade. I want to make sure that I just stay down on that grind. I'm gonna hit it on that wood, see if I feel anything. Oh yeah. Yeah, it felt pretty rough coming through there. Let's drop it again. That felt better. One more. All right, do we help it? We heard it? What do we do? I mean, it looks pretty good to me. It sounds way cleaner going through there as well. Yeah, very nice. Okay, well, I mean, let's cover the elephant in the room. How much is this knife? And then, is this knife going to encourage me to try another model? Those are the two questions. How much is this piece? And then, would I be encouraged to try another one? Okay, well, man, try as I might. I mean, I was away from this video for 30 minutes, and I really researched to see if there was another model that I would be interested to try. And there's a backlock model that's got some, looks like steel, maybe brass bolsters that seem kind of interesting to me. And I just couldn't land on one. I saw there's a button lock. It is a big knife, 6 inches a handle. And I was tempted to try it. It's quite a bit more money. That knife is like over $100 retail. But it's got this glass breaker on the back, and that's kind of a deal breaker for me, having that there. I mean, I think I would feel different about this knife if that wasn't there. So I don't know the future of this piece. I don't think I'm going to sell it. Um, I think I'll figure out how to give it away, and that's what will happen to this piece. Yeah, the Daggerr. What did I say it was? The Resident. Yeah, the Daggerr Resident. All right. Well, I appreciate y'all watching. Listen, it's not horrible, and it appears to be improving. Like, it doesn't feel quite as janky, and it's. I'm sure it's related to those steel cage bearings having to break themselves in against the hardened steel blade. Now, I don't think the liners are necessarily hardened steel, but the blade is surely hardened. And so, you got those bearings trying to cut a path into that. And, you got hardened steel, supposedly, against hardened steel. And it just makes the knife, I don't know, it just made it feel a little janky to me. It is getting better. The ergonomics, like I mentioned the P word, maybe. In the end, it's not a horrible piece, but I do think I'm going to give it away. I don't think I'm going to sell it. Yeah, I mean, it'll be a cool little giveaway, man. We'll give it to one of the members of the channel, and then you can fiddle with it and see what you want to do with it. All right. Hey, I appreciate y'all watching.